Welcome back, everyone, to episode 9? Yes, 9. Episode 9 of The Road to the Infinity War.
We can count this
Completing
episode.
the Shelf channel. Yes, Marvel Studies episode 9, where we speak today about one of the quintessential films, maybe, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the sequel to Captain America the First Avenger. This is Captain America the Winter Soldier, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, and of course, under the production of Mr. Kevin Feige. This film
I believe
released
it's pronounced Feige.
Feige, awesome. Yes, it's Kevin Awesome. This film was released March 13th at the El Capitan, April 4th to the rest of us here in the world, starring Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, and Samuel L. Jackson, along with introducing, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Redford into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And Agent 13, played by...
Yes, Agent 13, played by the wonderful and one of my favorite Canadians on planet Earth, Emily Van Camp. Yes, thank you for that, Chris. Thank you for the reminder. But yes, we meet with Steve Rogers in Washington, D.C., because where else would Captain America live but the nation's capital? That makes the most sense to me. But mostly because we find out S.H.I.E.L.D. is headquartered in a building known as the Triskelion or the Triskelion. It's
Triskelion,
cute. It's
yeah.
Triskelion. Oh, it's an SAT word for you maybe in the future. I don't know. But
Probably not.
as we've come to learn with my movie summations, they can get a little rough around the edges. But
Cliff Notes.
Here goes
Cliff
nothing.
Notes. Cliff Notes.
all right, here we go. Cliff Notes. Here we go.
Sit around, kids. Gather around.
Captain America does a half marathon in 30.2 seconds, making Anthony Mackie look like a schlub. And then they find out that Natasha Romanoff is really backstabbing Captain America on a secret mission in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And then Nick Fury is just like shot in Steve's apartment after getting beat to poop by this masked man with a metal arm. And then turns out that nobody likes Captain America because they think he killed Nick Fury. And it's just like, whoa. And Robert Redford's this really evil dude who's like backstabbing Captain America, which is really mean. And we're like, well, maybe it's going to have this like Sting like flip on its head, but probably not because there's no Paul Newman. But that's like ridiculous and stuff. So Steve and Natasha are on the run from everybody, and they have to like find out, well, what's going on. But then they get like bubble gum from like a vending machine, but it's not really bubble gum. And then it's like, well, maybe because Nick Fury's dead, we have nothing to do. We have nowhere to go. Oh, let's just run to New Jersey and find this secret military bunker and stuff. Oh, but then a missile's going to kill us. We got to go. And, oh, Anthony Mackie's back again. He's going to give us a place to lay low and stuff. So eventually they steal a secret military weapon because Anthony Mackie's a bird or something. And eventually he's not Birdman. He's like the Falcon, by the way. And so basically what happens is that Nick Fury's not really dead. Kobe Smolder shows up and everyone's just like, wait, where's Neil Patrick Harris? And then it's just kind of like fighting between Bucky and Steve, and they all live happily ever after.
Wow.
Oh, and Steve's neighbor is actually not his neighbor. There's the Cliff Notes, kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what had happened was Steve and S.H.I.E.L.D., Captain America is now part of S.H.I.E.L.D., but turns out S.H.I.E.L.D. is not really what we thought it was through a massive unraveling of things that have happened. It turns out S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra have been bedfellows for potentially longer than we'd like to admit, because there needs to have one to have the other in that mindset, which is kind of a strange bedfellow to have. I mean, it's like you are bad for the world, but I need you. It's like giving yourself work by as a janitor by making messes, I feel like.
Yes. Well, okay, so why don't we go ahead and get into what we like, because I think we can go deeper into some of these plot points and character points.
That's true. What I liked about Captain America: The Winter Soldier was the fact that initially you see this plan, and which Captain America kind of easily points out, of these helicarriers that are supposed to be like S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first line of defense against anything bad that could go on. And Steve rightfully points out, well, is it freedom or is it fear? And that's always like one of the most quintessential lines that kind of evolves from, well, what is the point of all these? So that's
I think
definitely
isn't
one of my
it
favorite points.
Ben Franklin quote that says something like, "Any man that's willing to give up their freedom for security doesn't deserve either," and that's the central
like
theme of the film. I think Captain America, as we've said, maybe in the past or maybe off mic, he's kind of a boring character, but it's about like he doesn't have internal.
It's predictable.
Well, but he's just good. And so he doesn't have this internal struggle like Tony or Peter Parker or Thor.
Right. It's predictable, not in a bad way. It's like, well, you know exactly what his intention is supposed to be. And I feel like he then brings that completely into question of like, well, who in the heck can I trust? I have no way to trust anyone. And
well, you're right. So that's where I was getting at. Like, the interesting value in Captain America as a character and a franchise film is what he's put up against. So through antithesis, by putting this purely good intentioned man up against things that are not. So it was up against the Red Skull in the first one. Now it's up against the federal government and S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, what's supposed to be protecting us, we're trading this. It's that surveillance state that we were dealing with in our society at the time. And this is a mark of good fiction, I think. And this is why it's important to watch movies and read fiction, because they reveal the current anxieties and state of our culture that it comes out of. So I like this film because, here's my first thing, because it has something to say. Right?
It's got a message.
It has a message for us, but it's not bonk over the head. But through the plot, you see why one choice is not as advantageous to the other.
Right.
And this continues on in...
and all those dominoes kind of fall together. Right.
Do you have a favorite scene, favorite moment?
I think for me, one of the more appreciative scenes that I feel like I did enjoy was him just Captain America, traipsing through the National Air and Space Museum, where there is this fake exhibit to Captain America.
And then a little kid spots him and he... Shh.
Little kid spots like, shh, it's not me. I like that part. And then the part where he's like, oh, Bucky, my friend. Ugh. And then you're like, moments later, seeing... Nick Fury on the streets of DC meeting Bucky. You're like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I sense we don't know the full story. And that's kind of what we're led to believe. It's just this, well, what is the real story? Is then the next part of always this unraveling within the film. It's like, well, what is next? That's kind of what keeps you on the edge of your seat, because at that moment in time, you're not really sure what's going to happen next.
Yeah,
but
maybe we'll tackle this later in our shelving, but Bucky is kind of like the physical embodiment of Hydra. He's the one that does the dirty work. So he's kind of like the villain.
The misguided villain.
But he's not a villain, too. Like, he's both. He's not even misguided, right? He's not himself. He's brainwashed. He's programmed.
Right.
But again, it's not that he's interesting, but it's the world he's in and how he's conflicting with his true self versus his programmed self against Steve. And so I really love the mechanics of his arm. It's really cool in the fight between Steve and him. Then he catches the shield, and you're like, oh.
You're like, what? How did you do that?
And that's a little link for us nerds that read the comics, because in the original Civil War comic book, Captain America is shot and killed. And and Bucky he takes on the mantle of Captain America for a while until Steve comes back somehow. Which I didn't read that part.
Science.
Yes. Yeah, science somehow. So, even though I think he was shot in the head, I don't.
Science.
It's comics. It's one story that's been never stopped being told since the 60s, but somehow they're timeless, Anyway, I also love the car chase scene with not with Captain America, with Samuel L. Jackson.
That was fantastic.
All car chase scenes are up against that in my mind. And full disclosure, I've never seen any of the Fast and Furious films, but this was just so intricate and fun and exciting. Great tension. Yes. Love it. What do you think of that?
No, that's a lot of things that I agree with you on, that I loved, and it feels like for me, as not as in-depth knowledge-wise comic books, I was more enjoying the comic books always on a more visual aspect for the action. I was never truly reading the comic books for their plot lines, unfortunately. So for me, it continues to give us terrific action, courtesy of Joe and Anthony Russo, who continue to have their pedigree raised to another level with another fantastic film.
Well, this is their first one, right? In the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. To this point, within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is their first entry. But it feels like you, in a way, as directors, this was their first crack at it. But their ability to tell a story has always kind of come in from previous iterations within entertainment. I mean, they were executive producers for the television show Community. They have been doing this storytelling thing now for quite some time.
It's a different level here.
Yes, and I feel like they got it. Just it's like, well, you expected this. That's the thing. It was their first time. This is very true. But I feel like it's like, oh, it's the Russos. It's like, okay. I feel like we've always seen this, and this is something that we've expected.
You know what's interesting? To expect such a tight film. This film is very focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike...
Especially as unfocused as the last Marvel film we had witnessed kind of gave us.
Yeah, and like Iron Man 2 was overstuffed with trying to build too much of the larger MCU world. This is very focused on Steve and Natasha, Samuel L. Jackson, right? There's our core there. And then introducing Anthony Mackie's Falcon, which he's a great, fun character too. But we don't get pieces into other stories. Although I kind of like when that happens. I didn't mention this in our Thor Dark World episode, but
last week?
Yeah. I like when Loki becomes Captain America. That was a funny moment. And it just shows what they can do in this universe where it's all connected still since
it's very true.
Avengers. But let's see, anything else that you really like that stood out that made this film?
I definitely think another favorite scene of mine from this one happened to be the scene in the mall
where they kiss
when they. Well, not necessarily that specifically, but the whole interaction of you need to do this so that way we don't get noticed. This, it's like the classic, here, do this so we can avoid being seen by my ex, or make my ex really mad or jealous. Or I feel like it was kind of those moments of the woman telling the man, do this right now. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll do that, and just jump. How high? Okay. I feel like that was just Steve going back to just like, all right, I guess I have to do this.
Well, and you made me think like the mall aspect where it's kind of like Captain America is playing the spy game with Black Widow. This film is super grounded in a physical reality, unlike Thor: The Dark World, right? But this is super physical. I love the opening where he's on that secret mission with the ship. And the way his shield moves and the way he fights is so much more physical and grounded, and there's more weight than what he did in the first Avenger. So fun and grounded, like I said. So I can't wait to see how that Captain America interacts in Infinity War with Thanos. I mean, this godlike celestial being with these super crazy powers. what could Cap possibly do?
I know. What is there any way for him to stop this? Well, he'll of course get some help, but I think it's time, now that we've waxed poetic about this particular film, to find out where this ends up on our shelf. I think you got honors last time for announcing which shelf this on. This for me, and there's, I would say there's, I would.
Can't get the words.
Rewatching this is wanting me to avoid a recency bias.
Okay.
But I'm going to put this on a second shelf.
Okay.
And I'm going to hold my shield up and avoid all of the daggers and bows and arrows and bullets to
It's
hit
been
me.
Nice podcasting with you, sir. But
God.
I think I can find another
Come on.
co-host on. No,
We are disagreeing on this, and please tell me that you're going to put this above me. At least tell me that.
We'll find out. Tell me why. Why second shelf?
Okay. You had said it pretty straight out of there. Captain America is predictable. That's my problem. We know what he is. He is himself through and through and through. We love him to death, but he is Captain America. He does not have the internal demons as much of dealing with the things that Tony Stark deals with.
And therefore he can't grow as much.
And
right?
and the shtick of being frozen for 60 years is getting a little old. I'm sorry, but I just feel like that alone cannot allow me to put this on a top shelf. There are so many visually great things about this film, and the development is there to allow Captain America to get a little deeper. But still, with that, I still feel like there is just something missing for me to not being able to put this one on my top shelf. And I think this is going to be something that maybe a future Captain America film may be able to do that. And I don't know, but Captain is just a steady, awesome thing and I think that may affect a rewatch factor, because as much as I had to research and redo and rewatch again to find out why this plays its part, and that not until the Easter eggs in the credits do you really have to understand how this really again plays back into the entire Infinity War itself and getting on this road. This, like Thor: The Dark World, is another film that just happens to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not until you get and sit through 2 hours of this film and into the credits even do you say, oh wait, there is something more, and there's something later on that we have to remember. And you get that reminder of, oh yeah, there's another film after this, and that next film that you get to see Captain America, it's bleeping awesome. So again, as much as I'd like to say that this should deserve a top shelving, for me, it only it's got its hand on the top shelf, but it's hanging into the second shelf. It's so close. It's so close.
Well, unlike Captain America, this show has conflict, and that makes it entertaining, right?
Woohoo! Wait, what?
This is a top shelf film for me.
Defend yourself!
I will, good sir. I can shield my defense. And it's all about the breakdown of S.H.I.E.L.D. How does this fit into the MCU? The S.H.I.E.L.D. is stripped away, right? And so this apparatus that's been functioning behind the scenes since the original Captain America to safeguard the world and the United States is gone. And I remember when this came out, people were like, wait, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on TV, how's it going to work? This is going to change everything. And it did change the whole Marvel universe. But on Earth, right? A lot of the Infinity War stuff has been a galactic concern. But how is this galactic stuff going to interact with the chaos and trauma of us Earthlings trying to figure out and get our crap together, right? Are we even worth saving if we have all of this deception
baggage
going on? And think of you're fine. Think of Hydra's plan. We're gonna wipe out tons of the world's population, so that we can be safe. And I think we're going to see a villain later on has a similar solution to humanity's problem. Wipe out a lot of the population, and then we won't be able to hurt ourselves. And so it's interesting. But Captain America's growth comes from seeing that the good guys, the federal government, the U.S., are not good. When we give them so much power, they don't have our interests. So they'd have to be there, but not given the amount of power that Project Insight is going to give them with those helicarriers. So I think that's the interesting commentary.
Yeah, I think Natasha kind of hints at that as well during the epilogue of this film, where you see her addressing a congressional panel of sorts with generals and politicians and crap, and she's like, you'll need us and you'll know where to find us. It's like, we will work on the fringes and we will do the things that you need us to do, but you cannot, it'll be very, very tough for you to police how we are affecting and saving you all.
And this moves directly into Civil War, and I think into Infinity War, because some rumors have said that Captain America is going to be leading the Secret Avengers, which is a secret clandestine group of Avengers, still trying to save the world, but they're unofficial and they're like Black Ops. But anyway, why is this a top shelf? I think it's kind of what your complaint is. It can stand completely on its own, or it can be part of this larger universe. And because it's a whole condensed, focused story that has something to say about, modern times and, the government and safety and security and freedom, I think it's so focused. The villains are motivated by, believable, understandable things. The action is great and it's very grounded. All those things make it a top shelf, perfect film for me because I can rewatch it endlessly. And I could tell a non-comic book movie fan and say, go see this and you'll enjoy it. And they probably will.
Oh, I will tell them to go watch this. I'm with you 100% that they can enjoy this. I'm not saying that they won't, but at the same time, for me, it's very, very close from achieving that top shelf status.
Oh,
but
I got you.
It's certain. I'm not saying it's a fourth shelf like we just talked about with Dark World last week, but you have to remember that in the size and scope of the thing, you don't find out about how this deals with Thanos until an Easter egg. That's my problem with how it relates.
Well, and that's how the comics
everything.
function. Like for a while recently, in the comics, Wolverine's been dead.
What? Wolverine can never die.
Well, anyway. But now he's coming back, and so at the end of every single comic coming out for a couple months, there's like another page in the story of where's Wolverine? How's he coming back? And so it's connecting everything together, even though the story that you're reading in the main comic has nothing to do with it, So that's what these after credit and mid credit scenes are doing. It's functioning exactly like the comics have for years.
Fair enough.
So, all right. So this is my, when we get to our ranking episode, this might be this is like top 3 probably.
I understand.
Definitely for me.
I feel like that this is something that will be strongly rated when we eventually get down the road to ranking our maybe favorite 10 Marvel Cinematic Universe films. So I don't doubt this will make my top 10. I just don't know if it will reach the podium, as we like to think of it, with a top 3 being the gold, the silver, and the bronze, now that we're completely out of Olympic mindsets, and the Olympics have been over now for just a few weeks.
Yeah, but you can put medals on a shelf, so it kind of works. The metaphor is consistent.
Yeah, there we go. Well, that's been our feedback about Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Winter has come.
Your feedback, winter has come, and it's almost... by this time, you're already in daylight savings time, so make sure, if you haven't done so a week ago, make sure your clocks are an hour forward, because you've been an hour late this whole week. Good job.
Oh, darn. I'm glad they're relying on a YouTube podcast about the Marvel Universe to set their clocks right.
I know. That speaks to me if that's the case, but if not, good job. You're ahead of the game. Anyway, your feedback is always appreciated. Please leave them in the comments section below. Tweet at us for @Alex_Salvo and @ShelfNerds. I did it! I did it, Chris! Oh my god! But for Chris, I am Alex. Maybe we'll make progress on being able to read and talk again
And do math.
in the near future. And do math, because we successfully remembered that this is episode 9, and I successfully remembered that he has no underscores in his Twitter handle. So maybe for the next episode, we'll play some awesome music and talk about things that are just fan-Grooten-tastic. Until then, I am Alex. He is Chris. We'll see you on the road to the Infinity War.